days left for Christmas shopping. 9 days left to fill the stocking. 9 days left for Christmas shopping. Only got 9 days more.
Hi there. It's getting late. It's getting late. You better hurry and finish your Christmas shopping. Only 9 days left.
Shopgear.com.
The following is a presentation of the Gear Radio Network.
You're listening to Better Live Than Dead.
I believe it's a big challenge for our building to keep things in perspective and to, if we're going to get addicted to anything, let's get addicted to the process.
And with that, we welcome you to another episode of Trust the Podcast. This is episode number 37, powered by Better Live Than Dead and the Gear Radio Network. Week 15, the Buffalo Bills versus the Detroit Lions. You can hear this podcast on BetterLiveThanDead.com, iTunes, Google Play Music, iHeartRadio, Spotify, YouTube. Wherever you catch a podcast, you can catch this podcast. We appreciate you tuning in. I am Ryan Wolfe at Wolfe BLTV. Joining me now, as usual, on the IndyCar Media Hotline, at the JC Money, he is John Cimino. John, how you doing today?
Episode 37, peoples. That was my poor imitation of Mr. Perez of the BLTD podcast, but I am well, Ryan. How are you?
I'm doing fantastic. I appreciate you asking. I was going to say for a second, I thought that maybe Perez had joined Trust the Podcast and maybe he hijacked the phone line, but you know what?
No, if this were a Cowboys podcast, he'd be the host, but I don't think he'd be. This is exactly what an episode of Trust the Podcast with Perez would be like. You'd be like, you can hear us on BetterLiveThanDead.com, iTunes, Google Play Music, iHeartRadio, Speaker, and now Spotify. I'm Ryan Wolfe at Wolfe BLTV, and joining me is Mr. Perez at MRLG Perez. Perez, how are you? The Dallas Cowboys beat the Buffalo Bills 2 years in a row in the 90s when most of y'all wasn't born. Like, that would be him. That would be it. Sorry, Louis.
That's incredible. Hey, shots are fired, man. Shots fired. But hey, speaking of the Buffalo Bills, man.
Indeed.
They defeat the Detroit Lions 14-13 in what can only be described as a snoozer. Now, let me tell you what. Not only to you, John, but the listeners out there in podcast land. It seems like whenever I commit to the bit to watch the entire game, undistracted too. Like I was watching the whole thing, paying attention, trying to make sure I was able to soak in every aspect of the game. Because normally I'll listen to the game and I'll watch it, kind of here, kind of there. I'm folding laundry, doing homework, whatever it may be. I'm always kind of busy while I watch. But today I said, no, I'm going to watch the game, make sure we're paying good attention here. And
how dare you?
It was boring, very boring to watch that game.
I got to be honest. I channeled my inner Puerto Rican roots and cleaned my house while it was going on. So I ended up having it on the surround sound and blasted it through the entire house. So I was able to listen to the game. There were periods of time where I actually looked and watched the game, like Allen's scramble for the touchdown that he had, again, using his legs. Giving the Bills fans and the Mafia there at New Era Field something to cheer about, certainly. But for the most part, I did not actually view the game. I listened, though, so I know what we're talking about.
That's half the battle there. Hey, and speaking of the game, we'll just jump head first into our three big things. We'll talk a lot about this football game, as we always do. Josh Allen, a franchise update on the franchise quarterback. He was 13 for 26 today, 204 yards, 1 touchdown. Only 9 rushes today for 16 yards and a touchdown. And a couple things to point out here before we get into a little bit more in-depth talking with you here, John. He had a fumble loss and a 4th down scramble, a little reckless of a run, but then again, he didn't get the first down. Ball got slapped out. It is what it is. The turnover would have happened, either turnover on downs or just the turnover itself. You'd like to see him be a little more careful with the football there, but it is what it is. His rocket arm was again on display this afternoon. Had a couple nice passes with some touch on him.
I'm telling you, that boy, he gets his accuracy right, and look out. Y'all absolutely got a franchise quarterback in Josh Allen. I can't say it enough. And I say this as a man that is the quote Bills Mafia's favorite Jets fan, whom also I firmly believe has a franchise quarterback in Sam Darnold. But man, oh man, you guys with Josh Allen, I mean, it is my hope as both a Jets fan and a Bills sympathizer that co-host this podcast with you now, that both teams and their quarterbacks do very well, because can you imagine I would like to look 10, 15 years down from now and say, what a hell of a battle 2 times a year, every single Sunday, 3 times a year if you want to include the playoffs, wishful thinking. But what a series, what a battle that these two quarterbacks had. Bill Mafia, get excited about Allen, man. Stay excited about him.
Absolutely. And today the Lions made Josh Allen beat them with his arm. And like I said, there are throws every game that you see him make and you say, damn, this kid's going to be real good as long as he continues to figure it out. And then there's other throws where you wonder, really what the hell's going on with him. So I mean, there's still rookie growing pains.
Exactly. For that exact reason right there, rookie growing pains. If this were 3 or 4 years down the line, at that point, I would be like, what the hell is he doing?
Absolutely.
Shouldn't he have learned by now? But right now, year one, the fact that he's doing what he's doing right now, and again, I go back to the point that I made last week, where the Bills were projected at 0 wins, 1 win, 2 win. They just won number 5 today with Josh Allen. And Josh Allen, the man has embraced Buffalo. In case you haven't known, during the Sabres' big streak, I know you cheap plug for your Sabres podcast there, but when the Sabres streak where they were winning 10 games in a row, Allen was like, holy crap, dude, this is awesome. And, when the Bills do well, this area does well. When the Bills are excited, playing good football, or even the Sabres playing good hockey for that matter, this area is exciting. Hence this is why I'm a sympathizer. And this is why I'm actually very pumped about Allen and his potential with this team.
Looking at it too, I mean, there were a handful of dropped balls, or again, it's like every week, it's like a broken record. Allen goes out, he impresses. There are some plays you get kind of scared about, but for the most part, it's very positive for Josh Allen. But then you have long catches that were brought back due to penalty, whether it's a holding, a pass interference, whatever it may be, or they're just dropped. So it's one of those things where we'll talk about. I want to talk about Robert Foster here in just a second, but there are players on this team right now that will stick around. There are guys on this team that will not be here for very much longer, only a few more weeks. But they will have to get more talent around Josh Allen. And I do believe we've seen enough now that he should naturally start to develop. He may need some work in the offseason to work on some specific things, but we've seen at this point, he's developing a rapport with some players, and and you can kind of see the development slowly but surely happening week after week, where he's not going to come out next week against the Patriots and, throw for 400 yards. I mean, it'd be nice if he did, but I don't think it's going to happen. But you may start to see the small changes in his game, which the small changes then become very big movements, very big changes, very big shifts in his game. And then he'll take that next step to being, every week you can count on him for 300 yards and 2 touchdowns.
Well,
the Bills are always in it.
I'll tell you this, and keep in mind, I do not know the name of the analysts that were calling the game for Fox with this, but one of them made a good point where they talked about how the Bills' losses last offseason, having made the playoffs, first time in XYZ amount of years, we all know that now. But, and minor setback this year. They're obviously not making the playoffs this year. We know this. But the key pieces of the offensive line that they lost, they mentioned Richie Incognito's crazy ass with his retirement and everything like that. Things like that. The Bills, again, I circle back to my very, very first appearance on this very podcast, where I said this offseason and the amount of money in cap that they are going to have this year, they fill those pieces to that offensive line, and you are looking at an entirely different Bills team. You are looking at possibly 9-10 wins next year. With a better offensive line. If Allen is doing this with a shoddy offensive line, doing what he is doing right now with a shoddy offensive line, could you imagine if he had just a marginally better offensive line? Yeah, I mean, you guys got to be excited about that.
Absolutely. I mean, it's one of those things. Like I said, you see the hope, you see the potential, and your mind kind of wanders a little. And that brings us it's a really good transition. That brings us over to the stats of the game here, the second of the 3 big things this week. First off, Robert Foster, again, another great day catching the ball, 4 receptions, 108 yards and a touchdown. He actually becomes the first undrafted free agent in Buffalo Bills history with consecutive 100-yard receiving games. Also, 90 yards plus in the past 4 of 5 games for Robert Foster. So it seems like the Buffalo Bills have found themselves a diamond in the rough, a wide receiver who can use his speed to stretch the field. Yes, he may drop some here or there. He may not run a great route that certainly will hurt him or whatever it may be. It happens. But again, he's developing rapport, and he's really putting good film out there and he's going to give himself a really good shot next year to make the team. I mean, I'd see that's a dumb thing to say. He's going to make the team next year. I'm saying he's giving himself a good shot to have a very important role with the Buffalo Bills next season. Just by seeing what he's done. And this is what teams like the Bills have to do late in the season too. When they have a bad year, it doesn't help you to play guys like Kelvin Benjamin. That's why they make the move to cut Kelvin Benjamin, and you let a guy like Robert Foster play and just get as much playing time as possible, because the only way you're going to find out what you have in a guy is if he plays. So I really like what Robert Foster has done in response to being given the opportunity to play more and play with Josh Allen, play with the first team. So it's been really good, because I think Robert Foster has kind of turned into a little bit of a nice positive this season for the Buffalo Bills.
He really has.
Also,
and correct me if I'm wrong, but was Robert Foster? I know I shared an article on Facebook, and forgive me, I'm trying to find it right now because I don't want to sound like a babbling idiot, but I'm going to sound like a babbling idiot. But wasn't Robert Foster the one that the member of the Bills team that was at a Dick's Sporting Goods and? Yes. Recently, yes. That, I mean, just things like that, where he's coming to his own, and not only is he putting up positive numbers on the field, but he's making an impression off the field. He's a good character player. And after that story came out about Robert Foster, buying the kid those shoes at Dick's, I've decided that it's a toss up between two jerseys that I need to buy, which is they're going to be Buffalo Bills jerseys. Obviously, if you, Ryan, so graciously renew me for another season for Trust the Podcast next year, I'm going to need to have something to go with the lone Bills hat that I have. So I'm not sure if I'm going to go with Josh Allen or Robert Foster, but it's going to be one of those two. And I'm really leaning Robert Foster because I'm a big advocate for good character people like that. Robert Foster is that type of character, clearly evident, and it certainly is nice that he can produce like he has been in the past 5 games.
It's been a lot of fun to watch, like I said, and another big debut that people have been, I mean, it's not a huge debut, but an NFL debut was made today. Keith Ford, running back. A lot of people have been talking about him because of their, I'm trying to remember, it was, I think Brian Dable said that he was in love with Keith Ford, like just the way he plays the game and what he brings to the table. LaShawn McCoy was out of the game today, which we'll talk about in just a moment. But Keith Ford made his NFL debut, 14 rushes for 46 yards. Not bad for the first impression, getting himself into an NFL game. And, you can check that box off, and now you just got to keep working at it. And maybe the Buffalo Bills will find out the next couple of weeks if they have something in this player. I mean, again, as we said with Robert Foster, that's what you have to do this time of year. You have to play guys who potentially could be a part. I mean, he may not be more than a second or third string running back next season, but hey, you know what? That's what you're going to find out real quick. And again, it wasn't the greatest of showings, but 14 rushes for 46 yards, it's a pretty good start.
It is what it is. It is what it is with those things. But again, like you said, this is the time to have these, have these real in-game experiences things. You're not making the playoffs. You're kind of looking to next year. Fortunately, and in comparison to years past with Bills fans seem to thankfully be a little more patient, which has made my Facebook feed a lot more enjoyable this year. An understanding of the process and dare say trusting the process. Maybe you should trust the podcast, by the way, though. But this is the time to do it. So give the guys those in-game experiences. You're not going anywhere. You're not going to the playoffs this year. Give those guys those in-game experiences and really give them that evaluation that you may not have the ability to during off-season workouts and preseason.
Two more things to point out here, stats of the game wise. Jordan Poyer had a monster day, 11 total tackles, 1 tackle for a loss, and kind of a tip of the cap to an opposing player. Detroit wide receiver Kenny Golladay had 7 receptions for 146 yards. It did not seem like the Bills had an answer for him all day. Just a monster player for the Detroit Lions. A lot of fun to watch too.
And guess who had him in my fantasy league?
You?
Not a single person.
Oh man! Wow.
I don't know how he went under the radar there, but either way, I'm in the semifinals anyways, so I'm happy and God willing, I'll be in the finals next week, which will be dope. But
best of luck to everybody in their fantasy football playoffs this week.
That's right. Except for you, Luke Harper.
Yeah,
I hope you lose this week.
The official podcast, or the official fantasy football league of the podcast, the Wolf and Steiner Football League. The playoffs are happening right now. It's myself versus my father, my brother versus our good friend Shenny, who we call. It's a fun time. It's nice little. I am a
former winner of that league too.
Yeah. One time. And I also won the horse's ass trophy in that league too. And I display both next to each other very proudly, Ryan. The now retired horse's ass trophy. That is correct. You finished last with the horse's ass. How dare you? Well, we had people tanking for it. And we couldn't have that happen.
I wasn't tanking for it. I legitimately tried every week in that league.
Oh no, you earned it. You definitely earned it. I
earned my goddamn horse's ass.
You're acting like a horse's ass right now.
Shut up, Ryan.
On a podcast.
There it is. Ding, 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 ding.
Looking at LaShawn McCoy.
You know what? Next week when we do this thing, I think I'm going to hook it up differently so I can attach my soundboard to this, and we're going to have some fun sounds and trust the podcast.
You'll have to hook me up with that so I can load some. Maybe I can pot up some sound from the game on the soundboard. That might be really cool. Maybe we can do some fun stuff. Who knows?
Maybe. If you want, though, a little outside the box, a little thinking here while, this is kind of a thinking man's podcast, I guess, apparently. But, in the interim, if you want to throw me sound bites, if you have them, I can certainly add them to the soundboard until we figure out how to configure your gimmick. But we'll certainly, sure. I'll certainly work on that too. Yes, trust the podcast a little bit different now with my side. But hey, you know what? Awesome. You fans have you listeners and fans have responded greatly, and I love you for it.
Yeah, we appreciate you very much. So it's the response to the podcast this year. Last year it was great because obviously they were doing well, so everybody was excited. But the fact that we're still getting a very positive response this season, despite the fact that the Buffalo Bills are not very good or not as good as they were last year, it's still real nice. It really keeps the wheels rolling.
And I appreciate you guys keeping me honest on Twitter and also liking and laughing at the fact that I hashtag Shut Up Ryan and in that exact same feed, and y'all get it, which is awesome. So, anyways, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, moving over to our third of 3 big things, LaShawn McCoy's quest for 11K is put on hold this week. He missed the game due to a hamstring strain, so he still stays in 26th place all time, 10,571 yards, 20 behind a tie for 25th, Thomas Jones, who has 10,591 yards.
And can I make one very, very, very bold prediction right now as we speak? LaShawn McCoy's not getting 11K this year.
That's safe. I mean, the only guy who's going to get that many yards in 2 games might be Derrick Henry from Tennessee, who's been a monster. But we may not see McCoy again this year. I don't know. I mean, it's one of those situations where we haven't heard a whole lot. He hasn't been practicing. He's got a hamstring strain, like we said. Who knows what he's going to do?
Now, you know what? Being in the area that we are in, Ryan, I listen to a lot of local sports radio, and of course, the Bills being the forefront with that. So let me ask you this, because this question was posed on a local radio show that Brayton has actually been on a couple of times, the Sports Bar with Danger and Battaglia here on ESPN Rochester. They were talking about LaShawn McCoy and his plan and the Bills' plans for next year. Real quick, you don't have to go into in-depth detail. Do you believe that LaShawn McCoy will be a Buffalo Bill next year? Do you think he's in the plans?
I mean, it's difficult, I think, for me to say, because it all depends where they go financially. I mean, if they cut LaShawn McCoy or trade LaShawn McCoy, they could certainly get a lot younger and a lot cheaper at that position. But then again, they may not want to take a weapon away from Josh Allen. My gut says he comes back, But if they were to cut him or trade him, I would not be surprised.
See, my gut is telling me that he's not going to be back next year. I don't know why. I can't explain it. It's like that segment on Bill Maher, on Real Time with Bill Maher. I don't know it for a fact, but I know it's true. I just have a feeling that McCoy will be dealt this offseason for one reason or another. I don't think it has anything to do with the offseason, the out of football, non-football issues with the ex-baby mama or whatever the hell she is. I don't think it has anything to do with that. I think based on a pure football move, and also McCoy, he's up there in age in terms of running backs. I don't know why I feel like this, but I feel like LaShawn McCoy will not be a Bill next year.
That's fair. I mean, I looking at it, I think that like I said, either way, I mean, it's going to end up being not surprising either way. I honestly think that if they say we're going to keep him, okay. If they say they're going to get rid of him, okay. I don't think either way I'll be surprised, like I said. But looking over to 3A, the quest for the highest pick, if the season were to end today at the time of the recording, which obviously it doesn't happen, it's 4:50 p.m. on Sunday, December 16th. Not going to happen. But the Buffalo Bills would pick 10th overall. That will change, obviously. But they are really kind of stuck in that spot. And I think Joe Biscaglia of, I think it's Channel 7, he said they're probably locked in between 10 and 14, depending on wins and losses.
Wait, Channel 7 Rochester or Channel 7 Buffalo?
Buffalo.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that he
Channel
said
7 Rochester, for those of you Rochesterians, you all know as Fox Rochester. Buffalo, I don't know what it is for you. I'm sorry.
I think it's WKBW ABC, if I'm not mistaken. But I can't remember. I don't know.
Okay, I'll make sure to keep that in mind for the next time I forget it. I don't know, whatever.
You got it. Hey, it's from it's the Bruce Almighty thing, man. You got to remember it. But hey, looking ahead, brought to you by 26 Shirts, just like last week, because we are slackers here. It's hard for us to preview the offerings of 26shirts.com because the new shirts go live at midnight tonight on December 17th. The shirts are running out today. They're available till midnight on the 16th. So by the time you hear the podcast, they may not be available.
Well, how about this? Can we do this? And those off weeks, so next week, we know we'll have a new offering for 26 shirts, right?
Yep.
But those off weeks like this week, how about we do shopgear.com?
That's fair.
Yeah. So let's go shopgear.com. That's our Amazon. That's our short link to our Amazon page. And really, if you just use that shopgere.com, and maybe in 2 weeks, I'll have some kind of product, some kind of Buffalo Bills product or whatever that I can advertise, or maybe I can even figure it out now after I do my whole spiel. But when you use shopgere.com or any of the links on better11.com or gearnetwork.com, it will take you directly to your Amazon page. The importance of using that one extra step instead of going to the app or going to amazon.com is by using our link. You tell Amazon that we, as a whole, referred you to them, and we do receive a small commission on most of your purchases, which goes a long way. It is the gasoline in the proverbial engine known as Gear Radio Network and BLTD, Better Live Than Dead, BLTD Sports. It has allowed us to sustain keeping free podcasts coming. We've had a very nice big month this month, of course, with the holiday season, and I certainly thank you for that. But again, just keep us in mind. If you plan on going to Amazon, just take that one extra step, please, and it would go a very, very long way.
Absolutely, and and keep it up, because we like to keep doing these podcasts, and it makes things possible. We like that. We like you, and keep on listening. Keep on using shopgear.com.
Breaking down the wall. Ryan is the VP of Gear Network, by the way.
That's why I like to hawk the merchandise, because it's a conflict of interest. I'm supposed to mention that, but whatever.
Yeah, boy.
Who cares? It is what it is. Week 16 preview brought to you by 26 Shirts. The Buffalo Bills at the New England Patriots, who are currently 9-4 at the time of recording. They are currently playing in Pittsburgh against the Steelers. New England actually has the ball at 2nd and 10. They're on Pittsburgh's 48-yard line. 2:23 left in the first. I don't know if I said that before, but it's 7-7.
They are
so that one will be
correct.
that'll be one to look at. Now, with the Buffalo Bills going to New England, I think despite the fact the Patriots have struggled more often than not this season, or more often than we're used to, they struggled more often than we're used to this season. So with that being said, I still don't think the Buffalo Bills have much of a chance, but it will be nice to see Josh Allen up against another playoff caliber defense, of the Patriots defense. That saying their playoff caliber might be loose speaking, but we know how they show up every year in the playoffs. So, hey,
right.
If it's an important game and they need to win it, it'll be good to see what Josh Allen can do. Can he succeed against the New England Patriots defense late in the season, or will he get shut down and look like an idiot? That's what I'm interested in finding.
I don't think he will be shut down and look like an idiot. But then again, Belichick is the master of picking apart one particular major one major part of the offense, one major part of the teams that he plays against, and just completely dissects it. The thing that the Bills have going for them is the fact that Josh Allen has established himself over the course of the past 4 weeks as a dual threat quarterback, throwing and running. Now, if LaShawn McCoy does suit up and does play next week, there's a greater chance that the Bills could upset the Patriots, or at the very least punch them in the mouth more than once. I think that next week is going to be a very, very big surprise to the Patriots, because they're still going to be playing to try and have that bye, pending what's going on right now. You already mentioned it's tied as of press recording 7-7 right now with the Steelers. Whatever the outcome of this game is, I fully expect the Buffalo Bills to come out prepared to punch the Patriots in the mouth regardless. Teams that aren't in the playoffs still have something to play for. You know what I mean? Whether it's they like to play the spoiler role, or in the case of a young team like the Buffalo Bills, they want respect and they want to let people know that they're coming starting next year. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
I think that's going to be one of those games. I'm going to stay I believe, with the exception of the Jets game, I've picked the Bills in every single podcast that I've picked, that I've been on here with Trust the Podcast. I've picked the Bills every week, and I'm not going to shy away from that this time. I'm going to take the Bills in the upset. I'm going to say it's going to be 20-17. Buffalo.
I think that it'll probably be. I think it'll be a game where the Bills can keep it relatively close until it gets a little later. But I'm thinking probably, I want to say 30-17 Patriots are going to win on Sunday.
If LaShawn McCoy does not play, I will agree with you. The 30-17.
Fair enough.
If LaShawn McCoy does play, though, I would not be surprised about the upset. And if I could tell you to screenshot my words right now, I'd tell you to screenshot my words, but don't, because you can't. But in the same, if you're listening, go ahead and at me, the JC Money, and say, hey, this is the proverbial screenshot. And if the Bills win, I swear to God, I want beer from every single person, every single listener. I want something.
That's fair.
Go to shopgear.com.
We'll have a party if the Bills beat the Patriots. But hey, with that being said, it's actually to break down the fourth wall. The Sabres play in about 5 minutes. They're playing the Boston Bruins here at 5 p.m. in Boston. I'm going to go watch the game.
The Bills Mafia to know that this Jets fan, a Bills sympathizer, is actually a fan of an extremely Northwest Coast team in the Calgary Flames.
It's a very interesting team to like because they're very good. They're a lot of fun to watch. Johnny Gaudreau, he's a good
Johnny
guy to
Gaudreau,
watch.
Johnny Hockey, Michael Backlund. Those are my guys. I love those two. I don't know them personally, but if I did, I'd probably love them. But I have been so a little story on that because I know the next question is going to be how the hell did you become a Patriot or not Patriots? I'm not a Patriots fan at all. How did you become a Flames fan? Living in Western New York. Well, I'm going to tell you, in 1994, I think when Ryan was born that year, I'm not sure, but in 1994, you were born when?
91.
Shut up, Ryan. Anyways, in 1994, when Ryan was born, Bret the Hitman Hart came, as I'm a wrestler and a wrestling fan, came out to the ring for a promo with the WWE Championship, but he was wearing 1993, he was wearing a Calgary Flames shirt. And I saw that logo and I was like, oh, cool, Bret Hart. He's like the thing. So cool. That team seems cool. Well, the next year when NHL 94, the greatest hockey game ever created, came out, I noticed the Calgary Flames on there and I was like, oh, sweet. I'm going to be the Calgary Flames. So, because it reminded me of Bret Hart. So I picked the Calgary Flames against my cousin, whom is 20 years older than me. Not the cousin that most of my wrestling public that's following me here know, but another cousin. He's like, 20 years older than me. He took whatever team was hot at the time, and I kicked the ever living crap out of him with the Flames on NHL 94. So from that point, I was a Flames fan. So
that's a good story, actually.
So that's how I became a Flames fan. And when it honest God, in 2000 and I want to say 2, I think it was when the Calgary, it could be either 2002 or 2003, when the Flames played the Tampa Bay Lightning in the Stanley Cup Finals. Every single game, because it was on Fox at the time, it was before the lockout. It was on Fox at the time. Every single game I had on the TVs at the old Blockbuster Video on Mount Read Boulevard here in Rochester that I used to work at. There was like 2 TVs there, and I had the Stanley Cup Finals games going on, and I was so mad when they lost that I sulked in the manager's office in the back.
Aren't sports great?
It's so great. Now, as an old guy, I don't really care because I could take the Homer hat off clearly or whatever. But man, oh man, I was like, come on, Flames, let's go. And they lost the goddamn Lightning. I'm like, I forever hate the Lightning because of that.
That's fair. I totally understand that. But I remember that. I remember those playoffs vaguely. That cup final very vaguely. I was 12 at the time. 12. So it's been a few minutes, but I'm gonna go watch the Sabres. They were
go watch the Sabres. I'm gonna finish watching the Flames. They're currently right now kicking the shit out of the Blues. Sorry, I forgot what podcast I was on.
You're okay. The Blues are real bad, but we'll talk about that. We can talk more hockey on a different podcast here. Listen to all the podcasts. GearNetwork.com, BetterLiveThanDead.com, Spreaker, iTunes, iHeartRadio, YouTube, wherever you get a podcast, you get our podcast, either the Gear Network podcast, the Better Live Than Dead podcast, you get the Trusted podcast, the Sabercast, whatever it is. Listen, tune in, like, subscribe, let us know, tweet at us, at WolfBLTD, at the JC Money. I am Ryan Wolfe. John is John Cimino.
That's me. That's me. Hey, if y'all want to talk, definitely just like that one user did. And I apologize for not remembering your at with Twitter. I've also been drinking. I'm not gonna lie. But if you have anything you want to talk about, with regards to the podcast, with regards to football, with regards to hockey, with regards to whatever, at myself, at the JC Money or Ryan. And and you know what? The good ones, what the hell? Let's read them on the air. I'm saying I will make that commitment to you, the listeners. If you want to at me with a question or at Ryan with a question, I'll throw, I will, if not on this podcast, because Ryan writes these ones, I'll do it on mine. I don't care.
Well, hey, it's the end of the season. We got to have some fun with it. If people want to ask questions, we can make a segment. If we get enough of them, we'll do it.
Hell yeah. Let's do it.
So with that being said, again, Ryan Wolfe, John Cimino, we are Trust the Podcast.
You are not.
We will catch you sometime very soon. And as always, go Bills.
Good night now. The preceding presentation has been brought to you by the Gear Network.